briefing agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Now, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. The next item on the agenda is general business, and we'll start with comments from council. I'll start with Mr. Now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of things, and then we're all good. Thoughts and prayers from myself and my family to the Wyatt family. Would like to thank our staff and our police and everyone involved with our events in June and July. I was able to attend some, and unfortunately I wasn't able to attend some others due to work commitments, but the ones that I went to and the ones that I've seen on social media were great and a success. And again, I want to thank the staff for all their hard work and dedication to our citizens and residents of the town of Troutman. Looking forward to it. We have I think another party in the park on next Friday, so please come out and enjoy the Troutman party in the park. I'm sure it'll be great, like our first one, and town looks great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Now. Mr. Jaroszewski.
Resonate those same comments about the events over the last couple weeks. The parade, it looked like the public really came out and showed out. We had a lot of attendance. Also like to say that the pickleball courts are now open and they look great. Excited to get out there and play with some of my fellow pickleball enthusiasts. And would also like to discuss something that happened at the end of last meeting that I don't feel has been addressed appropriately. That we did have a pretty controversial meeting, and as at least one citizen was leaving, there were visible and vocal threats made toward the council members that were sitting up on the board, and I'd like to discuss kind of how we move forward with that. I do appreciate the public always come in and sharing their thoughts and opinions and sometimes their grievances, although I don't think it's appropriate that they be making threats towards us for the decisions that we make regarding sometimes the position we're in.
I don't know that everyone heard those threats, but again, I think it's something that, at least in my opinion, if that is heard, particularly by council or anyone, that is brought to the attention of the chief or whoever the law enforcement officer is in the room, and ask them to just address that with the individuals.
Yes, I didn't hear the threat. I couldn't hear it. And I don't know what specific was said. That this is the first time I've heard anything about it.
Okay. I guess, in future occasions, I'll make sure to alert the appropriate authority in the room. I did alert the two of the members that were in the room, but I guess they weren't the proper channels.
On a question with that, Chief, could I just ask you, due to my law enforcement background when I was a police officer, communicating verbal threats against an elected official in this state, it's a felony. Am I just correct?
I'm pretty sure I'll have to look up the thing. And threats, it has to be, in North Carolina, communicating threats has to be pretty specific, like threat to do physical harm to you that a reasonable person believes will be carried out.
Gotcha.
Sometimes people will say, well, this is a threat, it doesn't meet the elements of the statute. So, we have to know exactly what was said to be able to know if it applies.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that, sir.
So to that same, I know when Nick had posted a picture of us when we went to the Weathers Creek school, someone made a comment that all of the council members need to be tied up to the back of a truck and drugged. So is that considered a threat, or is that because they didn't directly say it to us, not considered a threat?
It could be considered a threat. We'd have to consult on that one, something like that with the district attorney's office about prosecution. Was that a comment made on social media?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there were two different
Yeah, two different
citizens
ones.
that
Two
made
different
comments.
When did that happen?
It
I
was
would
right
have to
after.
refer back to social media, but right after, I posted when the Weathers Creek groundbreaking ceremony happened, and it was, I believe, the following day the comments were made.
Yeah, please, anytime you hear something or something, let me know, so we can do a report, conduct an investigation on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, not for me.
Okay. Mr. Hinkle?
Well, I won't repeat what's been said concerning the accolades of some events that have taken place recently and looks of our town and the outstanding activities and contributions of our staff to all these events, to make them successful, and including new additions to our ESC park, and congratulations to them, and the job's well done. But I do want to just make a quick comment. I certainly concur. I guess I've been on here so long that some of that stuff just kind of goes in one ear and out the other. But it has recently gotten more noticeable, shall I say. And people have got the idea in this country now that they can say and do anything and just about get away with it, up to and including actual violent acts. And generally they all start off with many of them, not all of them, but many of them start off with verbal comments, postings on social media that eventually lead to violent acts. And, if we're going to continue as a democracy, as a republic, there's no room for this sort of thing. And the people that do this need to be held accountable. Some may say, oh, I was just mad at the time, blowing off steam. Well, I've been mad pretty much sometimes to the point where I wanted to say some things I knew were inappropriate and downright illegal, but I kept them to myself. I was raised better and I knew better, and obviously I cooled off. I cooled off pretty quick, and I can't believe I thought that, but anyhow, the point is I didn't express myself to any individual. I kept it and remained civil, and I don't know why people cannot do that anymore. I'm not obviously speaking just a few or some, many people out there that do not resort to that type of speech or actions, and God bless them, but then there are few, and all it takes is just a few bad apples to create havoc, as we've witnessed in this country, and unfortunately I'm afraid we're going to continue to witness until things start to get better. So there is no room for it, and folks that come to these hearings and certainly have a right to speak their minds, but speak their minds appropriately. Free speech is not freedom to say anything you want under whatever conditions you choose, and in what mode you do it, to whom. It's just not allowable. And so if it takes the police talking to some of these people and letting them know that that's no longer going to be tolerated, perhaps it'll filter itself down onto social media. And same thing with some of these social media posts. Some of these people need to maybe get a little visit. Let them know that, it's not kind of like sometimes on the open highway, see aggressive driving, and when you finally have a chance to confront the person, they're mealy-mouthed and meek as they can be, and deny and say, oh, I didn't really mean anything. Well, that's just not good enough anymore. Things like that, again, can just, unfortunately, and they can also influence other people. You may not do something, but it can influence someone around you to do something that should not be, that would be downright illegal and violent. So I agree and concur that there's no room for it. It needs to be addressed. I don't mean to go overboard and infringe on anybody's free speech, but I also have a right to my safety and my well-being in this country, and that is just as important as free speech. So somewhere along the way, there's got to be a happy median in there, and that we all have to meet. So that's my 2 cents on it, and I'll pass on to the next one.
Thank you.
Currently, to answer your question, right now, the felony applies only to members of the state legislature and the courts. City council, school boards, and county commissioners are a misdemeanor. There's a House bill to advance it to all, the felony to all elected officials.
Thank you, Chief.
Ms. Harris?
Thoughts and prayers go out to our town manager, Mr. Wyatt, and his family as he recovers. And putting that on. I know it's not an easy task to put on those types of events. And the fireworks, just amazing. I think, I mean, I don't know what the numbers were, but good gracious, do you have a count, Emily?
I'll be able to pull them, the end of this week.
I would love to see, because it looked like it was going to be more people than last year. And I was talking to a lady in the lemonade line, we had time, but they were taking forever. And she was like, we're not even from here. I was like, where are you from? Just curious. She said, we're from Mooresville. I was like, well, you didn't go to Mooresville, because it was the same night. And she said they wanted to come here. She said, I really wanted to move to Troutman, but my husband wanted to move to Mooresville, so she wanted to be here. I said, well, you can always move to Troutman at some point, you know. But they really enjoyed their time there in Troutman, and it was a great atmosphere. Everything was just wonderful at the fireworks. And I missed the parade for the first time in a long time, but I heard it was great. And I did hear some good comments about the 4th of July event and the parade on social media. So it's not all bad, all right? That's all.
I'd like to add to that, I even recognize one Statesville elected official that came to our fireworks show versus the surrounding shows that were on the same night. So, you know, we're drawing quite the crowd.
Great, Ms. Oxer.
I will just echo everyone else's comments and hope everybody had a good 4th. That's all I've got, Mayor.
Thank you. I will echo everyone's comments. Prayers go out to Mr. Wyatt as he recovers. Some good news there. Hopefully he'll continue to recover well and be back to join us soon. Also, again, I can't speak enough for the staff, even as Ms. Wyatt's absence, but just what you all do every day, all day, shows the good work that you do for our town, and it's much appreciated. And so, again, thank you for that, for your work. I did go out to the courts before they were open. They looked good. I didn't have a pickleball or a basketball out there or anything like that, but probably need to. But I'm sure they will be enjoyed by everyone in our community. So again, thank you for that much awaited courts for our community, and great job in bringing that to life, Emily and your team. So thank you. Again, I appreciated the comments around and the dialogue around threats in our nation today, and again, I think it's important that we not take anything for granted, and at the same time ensure that, again, we have a civil dialogue and conversation when council is here doing the business for our town. You know, we passed policies in the past directing our citizens to be civil, and maybe that's something to be reminded of. And again, we appreciate, again, the service that this council does and the hard decisions that you all have to make. Again, we appreciate that, that you are doing that. So I would ask the council for a little bit of grace. I meant to add to our closed session a discussion on personnel matter, if council will be willing to address that. And I don't have the actual North Carolina General Statute. No, it's 143, 318, 11.
A6.
A6, yeah. A6. Can I get a motion?
Make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you for that. I'll now ask Mr. Justin, anything from the staff?
I don't have anything unless somebody else does.
I'll just say we included, or I know I did, I think maybe some others did, our weekly reports that we normally would pass up to the manager. So there's several things in there. What we would normally include, and also some things this week that we hadn't been able to include to him. So just want to be able to keep you all in the loop.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll let the mayor know I'll be out of town, but there will be an officer here on Thursday.
Okay, great, thank you.
On what day?
On Thursday.
Thursday.
Justin, we do need some direction for the newsletter.
Yes.
I had touched base with,
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is a discussion regarding CRTPO. I was at the last CRTPO meeting with a discussion on the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. I thought it'd be a good idea at least to have the council have a conversation on that, and Andrew agreed that it'd be great to at least bring you all up to speed a little bit on what's going on there. I think Kim said he's on the phone.
Yes, Andrew, you still there?
I'm here, can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Okay, yeah, I put together a memo, trying to simplify what the MTP is. It's pretty self-explanatory what I put together. It's one of the three major plans that CARPO does. They do it every 4 years, and it's supposed to be a fiscally constrained document where, ultimately we take transportation projects from that list, send it on to the state, and hope for the best. I put together not only the memo, I've got the scoring criteria as well as the projects that have been submitted and ranked. And it's not too pleasing to the eye for us if you actually dive into it. What has happened with, basically, I'll just throw this out here. So it's done every 4 years. CARPO hires a consultant firm to do most of the work. Work together with the municipalities. Municipalities put together some projects that they submit for the MTP. Goes through the scoring process. There's a 2-tier system in the MTP, phase 1 and phase 2. They compete against different projects throughout the CARPO region. As I mentioned, they've got to be fiscally constrained, or basically there's got to be enough money projected to cover the projects. That's where we're kind of running into the problem here. The consultant firm this time around did something that I think is pretty wise. They added a 4% inflation, just percentage to the projects, because this plan is to look out 30 years. But with that, I think it's accurate. So they're looking at the cost as these projects go along, and you'll see that there's very little money and very lot of projects. So with that, I guess that's just a basic opening statement about the MTP. Like I said, I had the scoring criteria, the memo, and the list of projects that have been submitted. So with that, I don't mind opening up the conversation.
So I don't know if you all got a chance to take a look at some of the projects that are in there. Andrew, I don't know if you want to just specifically talk about the projects that we either presented or were part of the 2025 plan or not.
So we've got 2 projects in there that are scheduled. The MTP is broken down by horizon years, and it's basically a 9 to 10 year period. And the thing to know about horizon years, to make it as simple as possible, is a project, if it's in a horizon year category, it should be open to the public by the last year of that horizon year period. So you'll see it's broken down differently on that list. We have 2 that are funded, the Flower House Loop, Houston Road, Main Street intersection realignment, and we've also got the North Main Street, Murdoch Road, Old Mountain Road intersection project, improvement project. So those 2 are the only 2 projects we have funded in the MTP, or that are showing in that draft list in front of you. As you can see, we've submitted 4 other projects, segments of Main Street, basically, broken down as just one of them is the project that's been on the books forever, the Barium Lane down to Cedar Street, and then we've got from Cedar Street down to Julian Place, and then basically Julian Place down to the southern segment of Flower House Loop. We've broken that project down into 3 segments, and it's still too expensive to move forward. So lesson learned, I think we should start looking at smaller scale projects if we want to get anything funded within the MTP. And then we've also got a legacy project that's been around forever. It's Old Mountain Road, which would be widened from Main Street out to Bethlehem Road, which is the airport area. And the segment we submitted it ended at Buffalo Shoals. So those are the projects that we had submitted from the town of Troutman into the MTP. And as I've mentioned, only those first two are listed in there as being funded.
Any questions for Andrew on MTP project? It really isn't a lot of money, but it's of course spread out. A lot of Charlotte in there, a handful of other neighboring communities as well. But again, I thought you all would like to see at least kind of where CRTPO is kind of funding projects right now.
You know, Andrew, I just, and I don't mean to be a wet blanket. I appreciate anything that comes out of Raleigh, out of Dot, even if it's just a block, a town block. But, you mentioned about, it looks like we're gonna have to start looking at smaller projects. And, we're still trying to catch up from 30 commitments made or promises made, handshakes made, shall I say, or done 30 years ago. So if we start going to smaller projects, I just wonder if my grandkids or great-grandkids are gonna see, completion of some of these projects that we thought would have already been completed long ago by now. That kind of just, and it is what it is, I understand that, but I'm just disappointed to hear that, to get something done at all, we have to go to a smaller project when we're already so far behind.
No, I agree. And, we've joked around in the past about, my grandkids being able to actually benefit from some of these projects that we thought would have been completed. So you're totally right. And unfortunately, with the situation, I think I say this all the time, the funding mechanism that NCDOT uses is antiquated. And until something changes where we can find some funding for some of these transportation projects statewide, I think we're just looking at this from just a tough situation for statewide projects, big projects. I think it's just a matter of funding.
I wonder, and I'm just throwing this out, it's kind of following up what they're doing down in Mecklenburg County with the proposed 1 cent sales tax that it looks like the population of citizens will be able to vote on down there. Is that something that could even be remotely considered by the legislature to allow local districts to do what is being proposed for Mecklenburg County to do with their mass transportation system, rail, bus, and so forth, bike trails, to allow localities to self-determine through the ballot box some sort of a sales tax to carry on local projects, and so to handle some of these things that have been short funded for so many years now and look to be continued to be short funded. Do you think that would be a non-starter? I know, Charlotte at first they thought that might be one, but you see how far it's gotten. So would that be something, for the legislature, who is now obviously not in session, but when they are back in session and can discuss it, we might consider positively?
Yeah, I think it would probably have to be a joint effort with the municipalities and also the county to do something like that. I know that I think all but one of the towns in Mecklenburg County signed resolutions to support at least putting that on a ballot, and eventually the state said, okay, go ahead. So yeah, I think there would have to be some collaboration with the jurisdictions in the county if something like that was looked upon moving forward. But yeah, it probably takes some legwork on the backside. But I don't see why there's no reason why if everybody came together and that's what was decided to move forward on and let the citizens put it to vote, then I don't see why that wouldn't be allowable.
Yeah. That's just, again, a thought, and it seems like if we're ever gonna get there, we're gonna have to do something like that. You know, it's almost like the toll system. If we're gonna improve our roads, you know, they're gonna have to make them a toll road, to get private funding in there. And, while this wouldn't be private funding, it would be a way for localities, and again, as you say, municipalities and the county in collaboration, to somehow come up with their own, local funds, to get some of these projects done that, you know, state transportation, doesn't seem to be able, and Raleigh doesn't seem to be able to come up with, and it just keeps, you know, the can just keeps getting kicked down the road year after year after year. So it's just something I'd like to throw out there, you know, to put in your, you know, toolbox to discuss in the future, you know, with the TCC and on to the CRPTO, and hopefully on up to the ears of the folks in Raleigh to seriously consider.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Andrew, what, if anything, does this MTP have to do with the Vision Zero grants that we've had a requested presentation for, and the TIA impacts of any future development?
Pretty much nothing. This plan is it's so far out in the future. This doesn't impact those TIA the Vision Zero grants that we're going to have that presentation on next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Andrew?
Thank you for taking time out of your vacation to call in and update us.
Yeah, I was able to see my 94-year-old grandpa yesterday, so it was nice spending some time with him.
Very nice.
Nice.
I'm sure Alexa would have taken over for you if need be.
Well, she's got our little temporary use amendment, so I figured I'd ease her in a little slowly.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks,
All right.
Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, we'll move on to next item, overview of the July 10th regular meeting. I'm sorry, I'm about to miss my wonderful agreement here with Benji. I don't get to see Benji enough, so we'll discuss the Charlotte Regional, the Statesville Troutman interlocal agreement. I'll turn it over to Benji. Maybe you can share some insights for us.
Glad to. You want me to use a microphone?
Yes, please.
Okay, well, good to be with you. Of course, we all wish Mr. White was presenting this. He's been very involved, and my prayers are with him as well. But anyway, I am able to talk about this and hopefully answer any questions, because I've been involved with Duck and the City of Statesville staff. This dates back to November. The City of Statesville sent Town of Troutman a letter saying that they would not honor the request for a new sewer contract, bulk sewer treatment contract of 1 million gallons per day or more, which is what was requested. So what they came back with was they would basically offer to continue to receive the existing sewer flow from Troutman, which is approximately 200,000 gallons per day. So that effectively allows for no new growth if it were to go to Statesville's treatment plant. As you all know, of course, your other sewer provider is Town of Mooresville, and you have a contract with them to purchase in blocks up to 2 million gallons per day of capacity. So one of the major things that Duck and I worked with the city staff on was to put in this agreement. That's what's in the draft before you, is an agreement. In the agreement would be, as Troutman is able to divert some of the sewer flow to Mooresville, and say if it's 50,000 gallons a day diverted to Mooresville, then new homes could be connected to Statesville to take the place of that. So it would be a net zero increase to Statesville, but it would be a change in which customers were connected to and flowing to the Statesville Third Creek plant. So that's a key part of what's in this draft before you. So this draft is started with Statesville. The Statesville staff used the old agreement as a starting point, and they made a few changes. Then then Duck and I made a few changes, and Jason's reviewed that. And so that's one of the major things we put in there was this specific language about signing permit applications for new developments to connect to the IL Creek line, which flows to Statesville's Third Creek plant. If we could show that that equivalent volume would go to Mooresville. So that's a key thing in here. Some key points to point out is as I said already, 200,000 gallons per day is what Statesville's offered. I did add in there a request it would be separate anyway, but I put it in there so that nobody misses it. There's 21,428 gallons per day that is guaranteed to Troutman forever. That was part of a 2008 settlement agreement.
That's including that 221.
So I just put that in there, and that's why it says 221,000 total. Another major element is the term is 5 years. Obviously, it would be better if it were 20 years or more. That's what Statesville has offered is 5 years. So that's in this draft before you. Another major point would be the rate. As far as an upfront one-time fee, which Troutman paid back in 1998, I think it was, with the old agreement, fee was paid. In this case, no fee is being requested, nor is Troutman offering to pay an upfront one-time fee. So that's good. As far as the monthly rate for the treatment, Statesville proposed that their outside rate, what they charge customers who are outside their city limits, that would be the rate for Troutman. Duck and I came back with a proposed 88% of the inside rate. So that's a huge difference, and I don't know where that will land with any final agreement. But that's what's in the draft you have in front of you is 88% of the inside rate. That excuse me, that matches what you're currently paying now. What you're currently paying Statesville now is 88% of the inside rate. Their outside rate, according to their fee schedule that I found on the internet, is 2.5 times the inside rate.
Yeah.
So you're basically talking about 88% versus 250%. That's a wide margin.
What are we currently paying?
88. Well, as far as it's, I think, $6.28 per 1,000 gallons, somewhere around there. But it is exactly 88% of what they charge their inside customers. One other key point is that the pipeline that follows Isle Creek as it leaves Troutman's town limits and goes to the Third Creek wastewater plant. That's the Isle Creek sewer outfall, we call it. That's owned by Troutman. That was built in 99. So in that old agreement, Statesville had the right to tap into that line for their own customers outside the Troutman town limits. Currently, there is one such customer, and it's that Sherwin-Williams warehouse over there in the Larkin Regional Commerce Park. So I put in this draft specific language that can continue, but if Troutman has to disconnect from Statesville after 5 years, then so will that customer. And there's some other language in there about if any new customers come along, it has to be reviewed by Troutman, that sort of thing. And obviously, whatever those customers use would not count against your 221,000 guaranteed capacity.
You one more time, and I know I've asked this before,
Sure.
but to keep submitting numbers. What's the size of that line again?
15-inch.
15.
So it was designed to carry 455,000 gallons a day. So there was already a capacity issue, but now there's a contract capacity issue with Statesville saying they would only accept 200,000 gallons per day.
Benji, any other customers projected that you're aware of to utilize that line?
Outside of Troutman. So that Larkin Commerce Park, so I don't know the latest information as far as what, any specific plans to build within there, but obviously it's a lot of land, and it was obviously built, you know, as far as the entrance road, and they've extended water to that park, so there's obviously the intention that it would be, have quite a bit of development, but I don't know of any specific plans or flow volumes. So those are some of the key points I wanted to bring out. Obviously, you all may have other questions. I did reach out to Statesville staff even today just to see where they were in their side of reviewing this. They might take it to their July 14th city council meeting for discussion. They might not. So that's all I can tell you at this time.
In regard to this, you know, obviously, as you say, it's five-year deal. Obviously, depending on who's in charge at the time, it could be extended, could not be. But basically, what is our situation with Mooresville? You know, before Duck left, you sounded optimistic, but obviously no cigar yet. Are we any closer to, you know, getting that hump leveled out to where we can send more to them?
Well, so here's what I know on that front. I've spoken to Allison Kraft, their utilities director, and spoke to their consultant who's looking at ways to solve that problem. And what you're referring to is their South Iredale sewer pump station.
Yes.
Currently all flow from Troutman to Mooresville goes through that one pump station, and it's at capacity. So they're looking at how to increase that capacity. And I know they've already got bids in on replacing the force main out of that pump station, but I think there's other things they have to do besides that to really maximize, to meet all of Troutman's needs. They've told us from the beginning they would not be able to receive the entire 2 million gallons a day that you have a contract. It cannot go through that one pump station. What's being worked on now is hopefully getting that up to 1 million gallons a day. Currently, there's, I don't know, 200,000 to 300,000 gallons a day go through there. Your Troutman's pump station that pumps to that point on it's Westmoreland Road. It's got a capacity of about 450,000 gallons a day. It's going to exceed its capacity soon with all the development going on. You have you've already awarded a contract to a contractor. You have a grant and a loan to double the capacity of that pump station. It will bring it up to a 1 million gallon per day capacity. But as far as Mooresville receiving 1 million gallons per day, I don't know yet. I'm not sure they know yet how much they would have to do to be able to receive it.
The South Iowa one, though, right now, is it, how much can South Iowa, right now, how much can South Iowa pump station, what's their capacity?
Well, that's their pump station, so I'm not as familiar.
Okay.
And I couldn't tell you. I would say it's probably about 1 million gallons a day capacity and already used up. In other words, they already have a lot, their own customers use that in addition to Troutman.
Right.
So it's probably in the neighborhood of 1 million gallons a day capacity and already used up.
Is there any way we could get those numbers from Mooresville to know for sure?
We can ask, sure.
What are they have bids out, what are they're aiming to upgrade that pump station? What's their goal, what's their aim of capacity, to increase capacity?
Well, I have communicated, I've communicated to them that Troutman intends to pump up to 1 million gallons per day to that pump station. So I'm assuming they're working toward accommodating that plus their own customers that go into that pump station.
And there's also some work that we need to do on our side.
Yes.
As I understand it.
Yeah, and I think when I was here a couple months ago, you awarded the contract for upgrading the Westmoreland pump station. What will also need to happen is extending Troutman's force main from Shinville Road to this South Iredell pump station. And that could be done as a change order to the pump station project, or we can bid it out, but that needs to happen as well.
That's the only viable access point is the Iredell.
That's the one, well, so that exists already. Currently, Troutman's flow connects to an 8-inch gravity sewer pipe owned by Mooresville. And so that's a choke point in itself. So that's why Troutman needs to replace or run a new 12-inch force main to parallel and bypass that choke point. But then within Mooresville's system, their choke point, the next choke point is the South Iredell pump station. And that's, of course, their responsibility to address. But to further answer your question, and Duck and I have been working on this, and we've met with Mooresville several times and talked about it. A second connection with Mooresville would be needed in order for Troutman to access that second 1,000,000 gallons a day to go from 1 to 2. And the best place for that second connection is the road names is Weathers Creek Road, and then there's a couple other roads to follow over to Wiggins Road in Mooresville. So they have a very large pump station on Wiggins Road. So everyone agrees that's the best place to connect to access your second 1,000,000 gallons a day.
So when do we need to start talking about that?
Well, we have been, like I said, Duck and I met with even elected officials and of course staff. I'm talking to the Shin Creek Development Group to maybe modify the pump station they're going to build on Shin Creek to do exactly that, be able to, in the future, be modified to pump to that Wiggins Road pump station.
Currently, where does the Weathers Creek and Shinville wastewater go? Is that what connects down?
Now, I'm sorry, rephrase your question.
The Shinville line, is that what currently runs up to the Weathers Creek High School, the new high school, and development all up through there?
All right, so because there's Shinville Road, so I didn't want to confuse things. Right now, your Westmoreland Road pump station discharges at Shinville Road at Highway 21 at Shinville Road. But getting over to Shin Creek, you've got the Shin Creek or Shin Farms development. You've got Weathers Creek High School. You've got Sanders Ridge development. That little valley there is currently served by the Sanders Ridge pump station. The Shin Creek development will put in their own pump station further downstream, eliminate the Sanders Ridge pump station, and their current plans that have been approved would pump all that back over to Westmoreland Road pump station. So it all end up going back to that same Mooresville South Iredell pump station. So that further compounds that problem. But I mean, their flow is already in the flow tracking allocation, at least for their first phase, not their future phases.
The South Iredell, is that about a 2-year project? To upgrade that?
So Mooresville's telling me at best 1 year, like possibly up to 2 years, yes.
I'm looking at immediate need, take care of immediate need, and then you say the long range to Wiggins Road.
Correct.
From Shin Farms.
Yep.
Development. Okay.
So as far as this agreement goes, if you approved it now, I'm assuming Statesville's probably going to have further changes that come back to you again. So, but obviously the Wakefield development is dependent on this to even do their first apartments.
Well, you said we're currently pumping roughly 200,000 gallons per day. Where does that allow for room for Wakefield if our request is only 221,000?
So the idea would be so the bids that were already received and you approved a contract for there was the Westmoreland Road Pump Station upgrade, and then there's also a separate contract that would eliminate the Quail Haven Pump Station. Runs a 15-inch sewer up Calvin Creek to Quail Hollow, and runs a 12-inch force main from Massey Street Pump Station over to Quail Hollow. That would allow about 2/3 of the current flow to Statesville to be redirected to Mooresville. And that's where you could free up 150 to 200,000 gallons per day for Wakefield. Again, that depends, just as you said, that depends on Mooresville taking care of their South Iredell
Right.
pump station issue.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they say they're going to, you have a contract, so assuming that's happening, then it makes sense to do this flow diversion and free up capacity for Wakefield. Because it's much more efficient and logical for Wakefield's development to tie into Statesville, to the IL Creek sewer line.
You know, would we be Statesville's biggest customer of wastewater, if this agreement went through, just for conversation, would we be their biggest wastewater customer? Wastewater treatment customer?
Single customer.
Well, this.
Single customer.
Yeah, I mean, this agreement basically keeps things as they are now. So you're asking, it's 200,000 gallons a day, their largest customer. I'm not sure if they have any industries that might use that much or more. I kind of doubt it, but I don't know. So it's possible Troutman's their largest customer.
I'm just.
What was originally requested was $1 million, and they offered 200.
Actually, so I have that here, I think it was $1.5 million. Yep, $1.5 million was requested.
Was there any rationale given as to why they were so far off?
Yeah, so in the letter from November, they stated that they had their own demands they need to meet, and they're concerned with their overall wastewater capacity.
So Benji, at this point, they've not taken it up in their council at this point?
Correct.
Was there a request that we take it up in ours first, or that was undetermined?
No.
Okay.
As far as who's first,
Okay.
I don't recall there being a request.
Okay.
So, Jason may have further advice. As far as I can tell, it wouldn't hurt for you to go ahead and approve it so that they know, you're serious. If you're ready to. You may have unanswered questions, you're not ready to vote on it, but as far as keeping the process moving, I would think going ahead and voting would be good.
Did you say that they were gonna do it more? They may do more changes?
Yeah, that's very possible, yes.
I assume what you're saying is we would be voting on the current draft that you all have worked on, submitting that back to them.
Yes.
They may come back saying.
Basically making that as an offer.
As an offer, right, okay. Okay. Any other questions for Benji?
The price that you discussed, is that in here?
88%?
The 88%, yes, it is.
It is in here?
Yeah, and to further clarify, it says, just to try to be reasonable, you might call it a compromise, but if, the question is what happens, because already it happens, some months you're going to be over 200,000 gallons a day, especially when it rains. Would you have another project starting construction this year to help reduce how much rainwater gets into your system? But the question is, what is the rate for that extra that goes over the capacity? So what's in here as a proposal is 125%, so 1.25 times the inside rate, whereas the bulk, everything up to the 200,000 gallon or 221,000 would be 88%.
And then after that, there's a following provision that says they have the right to charge Troutman an additional penalty to equal 100% of the inside rate, so that's 225%.
All right, let's make sure I'm saying that right. Which paragraph is that?
Page 8. Paragraph 3 is what you just referenced. Paragraph 4 is what I referenced.
That's for a maximum instantaneous flow, which I think we define, and that's part of what we're proposing, is that would be 3 times the average flow. That's what we're proposing. They may have a different definition, so that is an important point that you just raised. So obviously, I'm proposing we look at average per month. If you get down to each day, like when it rains hard, you get some really much higher flows on a daily basis. They're going to want to charge extra for that. That does put a strain on their wastewater treatment plant. So yes, at 100% times the current rate, that'd be double whatever's agreed on. But how I've defined it in here is that only kicks in if the rate over 24 hours was 3 times the average. So basically 600,000 gallons per day. Yep, that's in paragraph A4.
Okay.
So said another way, paragraph, or item 3 is more of a long-term, we're above that capacity, and, you know, say we've got houses coming in, we're above the 100% that we've agreed upon. It goes to, I don't know, let's just say another 25% above where we normally are at. At that point, they're able to charge us 125% of the inside rate. If for whatever reason there's a weather impact and water's flowing that 24 hours or 48 hours or whatever starts to impact the system, then at that point they can charge us an additional 100%, whatever that flow is, for that period until it's decreased.
So there's two ways you could activate additional fees. One would be in just 24 hours if it is 3 times your capacity. The other way is over the entire month.
Right.
If you exceeded the capacity.
The capacity.
Yeah. So.
Right.
That'd be 125.
No.
Yeah, that's what we're proposing.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
so-
right.
So if our original request was 1.5, and we are currently flowing at 200,000 on average, why are we only requesting at 221 if they could counter lower? Why wouldn't we start at 500,000?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. If you want to counter with a higher request, you could use it.
I mean, some of the contingencies are robbing Peter, it sounds like robbing Peter to pay Paul with future projects with Mooresville, and we may just bind ourselves up if we don't start requesting where we need to be over the next 5 years. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely correct. And of course, the 5 years is another key thing. So if you had 1.5 million gallons per day as originally requested, but only 5 years to use it, then that would still effectively hamper growth because it wouldn't be prudent to then allow new homes based on that higher capacity if you had to start over again in 5 years.
Would this contract bind us up in any way if, say, House Bill 765 passes, which changes some of the regional wastewater usage, period?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question.
Not yet, but I mean, there's other bills that have been proposed, and
I think there's consistent proposals out there to do
yeah.
that.
I just wouldn't want us to bind ourselves up with, you know, a contingency like we will absolutely be off of their system in 5 years with no future negotiations and no obligations, because we might see legislation that changes all of that.
And I don't know that from a timing perspective, we've got a timing issue, right?
Yep.
So, do we get our guaranteed contract in, at least for this period of time, whatever that 5-year period, versus when that would pass?
Okay.
I do like the idea, at least, and Benji, I don't know how their staff has communicated with you and Duck around, if we make the change here, we vote on sending this back, whether full council come back and say, hey, okay, if this is kind of the true start of this negotiation, maybe it is increasing that gallons per day, and maybe it's a 10-year contract. But then I go back to your point, if we do a 10-year contract, it's guaranteed, but things change a bit, then we're in there for a longer period of time.
We're not put a clause in there that we're notwithstanding legislation affecting this contract, possibly usage and the distribution of wastewater, allocation, could change the terms. To do something to protect ourselves so that legislation is passed, we have a contract, 5, 10 years, what have you, and it's in our favor that, that could open up the contract to, that particular issue, renegotiation.
You can't really agree to agree in a contract.
I'm sorry, what?
You can't agree to agree in a contract. You can't contract to agree later in time. That's not valid.
So in other words, we have no legal way of protecting ourselves.
And I can't see any legislation going forward that's gonna, that would not,
Bind you to the contract.
that would bind you to the contract and come back prior to a contract prior to the entry of legislation.
Yeah.
The question I have, and understanding that I've come in kind of on the latter end of this deal with Statesville, I don't think that they're required to do anything now,
Oh, no, they're not.
which is a problem.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And that's heavily on my mind.
Yeah.
So, the one thing that I was thinking, Benji, here is, we're flowing at 200,000 gallons right now. I feel like we don't have a buffer at all.
Yeah, and really right now, I mean, the average, they said in their letter, your average dry weather flow is 175,000 gallons per day. I guess that was back in October. But every month, you're over 200,000 gallons a day, right? Some months you're 300,000 gallons a day. So again, there is no buffer at all in this, you're correct. So you would be paying that extra 25%. So yeah, I just put that in there as a compromise that maybe they would accept. It's, at this point you are negotiating back and forth, and who knows where anybody will land, but but assuming that it's all voluntary on their end, assume it's only and it's only 5 years. I view this as a temporary way to accommodate some growth. You wouldn't want to have this as a foundation for a lot of growth, because it's too small, too temporary anyway, even if it was 1 million gallons a day.
And we've got to do some work on our end to
Yes,
try to
and there's,
resolve.
we've mentioned some of that today
Yeah.
with Mooresville. There's other
Yeah.
things that Duck and I have talked about, and we definitely want to bring that to you as well.
Can I offer that we make this 350, at least kind of our first offer, and see where they come back
Sure,
at that point?
sure.
Well, I might ask, can we make it 371, 428?
All right, 350 plus.
And we're
Right.
requesting 350
Right.
Yeah.
additionally.
Yeah, I'm where Nick is, right. Yeah.
Benji, if they agree to just the 221 for now, would that allow Wakefield to proceed as
Yeah.
they had planned to do, or?
Partially, and only if we tie it to diverting an equal amount of flow to Mooresville.
Okay, understand, okay.
And Wakefield will be built in over time. 350 probably gives us a little bit more buffer.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
That's where I'm trying to go. Okay.
Mhm.
We'd
How
have
long is it
to
gonna
stop
take us?
that project before it even
things go well with this modifying the Shin Creek pump station, that'll speed things up, but in any case, it would be in the neighborhood of 2 years.
And cost-wise? Ballpark.
Yeah, ballpark, so,
Yeah,
yeah,
of course.
in the discussions with Mooresville, it came up. It's actually in the system development fee report that I did, which is now a couple years old, but, and it had different pieces, so it depends on what you mean by that. As far as getting that one pump station and one connection to Mooresville, I think that's in the ballpark of $20 million. But that does not include when the time if the time comes that Statesville completely cuts you off, and you've got to pump all that flow to this new Mooresville connection as well, that would be more cost. So that's, I mean, we've looked at that, and I can't remember what it was, but that would be another pump station on IL Creek and another force main. So hopefully
Yeah,
before that has to happen, some totally different options can be looked at more seriously.
Yeah, we'll have pipes and no capacity. All the capacity we need, but no pipes. Just the logic puts me on team pipes. What are we doing? Why are we wasting our time here?
Right, so a lot of the growth already planned and where all the interest typically is can more easily tie to Mooresville. So that, what we're talking about, Shin Creek over to Wiggins Road, that would free up capacity or create new capacity. And there
That
are
we
ways.
technically have, right? Based
On
what I heard
paper,
you say.
yeah,
On paper,
as
yeah.
a contract, yeah. But as far as physical infrastructure, it's not there.
Right.
Yeah. So quite a few moving parts, but as far as Wakefield goes, if they build out to the maximum extent they could based on their plans, and if Statesville were to cut you off completely, then that's when you would have to do this additional pump station I'm talking about and get it over to Mooresville if some other option, such as a new total wastewater plant, didn't come through.
Thanks.
So question for Benji? So, changes to this. Number one, at least I don't think we resolved the time frame, but the gallons per day, the 350, with the 21,428 guaranteed. So 371,428, as Mr. Jarozinski said. Do we want to resolve the 5-year or 10-year offer?
I mean, I think that the language should be a little bit different. We definitely want to have our own contingency plan to get off of it, but that there be no talks within the, maybe the conclusion of the 5-year deal. I think we should add something that we'll reconsider in 5 years, or ask them to reconsider.
So there's something to the fact acknowledge that this agreement, instead of the not extend beyond 5 years, will be renegotiated in 5 years.
Yeah.
Something to that effect.
We're subject to.
Benji, what's,
I think the current language is auto renew kind of language in there, in the current contract.
No, that was in the old contract.
Yeah, that's what I mean, the old
So Statesville
contract.
I don't think they're interested in that. So on the last page, except as otherwise provided, the provisions of the agreement shall continue and be effective for 5 years from the date of the agreement. Troutman acknowledges that this agreement will not extend beyond 5 years and that they must begin to plan for alternatives to the guaranteed capacity allocated through this agreement. So they're making it clear that they see this as a
5 years.
This is
okay,
giving you
so
5 years.
that came from Statesville.
to
That-
make-
Right,
that's-
that's why I'm like, well, we wasting our time.
what's the capacity, what are they using right now at Third Creek? What's, their not capacity, but what is their usage at Third Creek, 30, third?
Right, it is about a third, it's less than half. It's a 6 million gallon per day plant. I think they're using 2 and some change.
So it's not like they don't have the 1.5 million we're requesting?
Correct, although they say there's so much pressure for future use on their Fourth Creek plant that they actually need to look at diverting some flow to the Third Creek plant.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that some of those are the reasons why there's so much legislature trying to regionalize wastewater treatment away from this personalized abuses towards smaller municipalities.
So, leaving it at 5 years.
Yeah, and to the best of my knowledge, it would be a non-starter if you asked for 10 years, but
Yeah.
could be wrong, and you can certainly ask.
Well, now, Fourth Creek, are they gonna shut that down, or are they gonna improve it? I know they've got problems out there, and as you just said, they're diverting some of it over Third Creek, because if they're going to kind of rehabilitate that Fourth Creek, then that may take some pressure off of Third Creek. That's the reason I'm asking that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't know anything, okay. I just heard, that they're gonna do some work over there, may or may not be of any consequence.
Just that dollar amount. I mean, the flow amount. 350.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay, well, I'll send a revised draft to the city with just that one change. To go.
Can we, put it in the, consent on Thursday, and then we'll vote on that change on Thursday in consent?
Yeah, I'll get you a copy.
I don't know much about wastewater treatment plants, but do they deteriorate at the same rate, using them 50% of their capacity versus 100% of their capacity?
Yes.
Okay, so, I mean, good business sense would say to utilize as much capacity as possible, as long as possible, because they deteriorate the same rate if you just used it 50% capacity, right?
Yes.
So this doesn't sound like a good business decision on potentially Statesville's part. Yeah, I just, wanna
Well,
put that out there.
the thinking of one councilman, who I'm sure is influencing others, is that wastewater in today's climate is the new gold.
I guess when you hold on to
He
it
who
like
holds
that.
the wastewater treatment authority, is holding a big old bag or truckload of gold, so, what it boils down to, so, good business sense, or, I shouldn't say good business sense, business, in this type of situation may not figure into the decisions. Good business may not figure in, it may be something else there, so.
All right. We good?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Justin, if you would. cover
Yes,
our-
sir. So for our regular meeting agenda for Thursday night, items 6A, B, and C are just approval of minutes. Item 6D, and this is all under consent, by the way. Item 6D is our schedule of fees. That was in your packet. The changes there are just the increase to the water sewer rates that were voted on for fiscal year 26 budget, as well as one other, I believe the planning department added this one, a temporary use permit for private and nonprofit. So that is, those are the only changes to the schedule of fees proposed. Item 6E is an annexation request. Alexa's here from the planning department if you have any questions on it.
I do have one, application, we're talking, let's see, that's on Goodman Road, right? Application, I believe, says contiguous, but this says non-contiguous. Which is it? Check me out on that if you would, Alexa, if you don't mind, please.
Let me
Is or is not?
Is.
Is.
I will verify though.
Okay.
We'll check in on that.
Okay.
And item 6F is also another annexation request. Dixieland Inc., total acreage .34 acres, located at 126 Meadow Fall Lane. And that is all for consent agenda. Any questions on consent? Okay, moving on. The next item is standing reports. Leighton will be here from the ABC to give us hopefully wonderful news on the ABC store. Next item, 9A under new business, is consider text amendment, temporary uses. Request to amend section 3.4.25, temporary uses, and 13.3, definition of specialized terms. And Alexa is here, if you guys have any questions on that.
I have a question. I have to find it.
Well, he's looking for that. My question is, what was the planning and zoning board's comments and any questions, suggestions from them on it?
Their determination was approval with no conditions. They had a couple questions about where this was coming from and that sort of thing. We just explained it. That council's looking to strengthen the ordinance in these areas.
Okay.
Any?
On the recommendation, it says, any structure will need approval from Ardell County Business Standards. We generally have to go and get, or inform them that we're adding this so that they know that they've got to come in and approve it.
Not to my knowledge, no, because the permitting process will remain the same
Okay.
Through them.
Okay.
Are there any provisions to the posting or visibility of the permits that are given to these temporary uses or temporary structures?
I don't believe so. I think that the permitting for a temporary use just mainly goes through us, and then if they need a building permit or some supplemental permit in order to put up a temporary structure, they would go through the county, and then they would have an additional zoning review with us for the site plan. So that answers your question.
Somewhat. I mean, I'm just wondering if there's any requirement for them to post that they have their permit approved at their structure, so that, and then if not, who enforces whether or not they even have a permit?
Well, they are required to supply us with all of their permits when they apply for their temporary use permit. And then I do know that oftentimes our code enforcement officer will go out and just, if he sees some sort of a food truck or something that he's unsure if they have a permit, he'll just ask them to see it. Just as a, but we, or sometimes we'll get a call from a citizen just wondering if a certain temporary use has a permit, and that's the main ways of enforcement that I've seen so far.
So is our code enforcement officer notified of when these permits are approved and their time period that they're approved for, so that he can
Yeah, so
see them?
when he sees something, he'll typically check with me, and I'll check with the permit and make sure that they are, one, permitted, and two, permitted within the time period that they stated.
Mine's probably just need a refresher. Mine's on the definition of specialized terms, the produce stand, the size limit. Where'd that come from?
Where are you at?
On the recommendation, page 2.
So, while the majority of this definition is actually being pulled from North Carolina general statutes, that size limit was actually just something Andrew and I had thought seemed
is the size limit less than or equal to 300 square feet, is that what it says?
Yes. And does that only apply to produce stands?
Yep, that would only apply to a produce stand, for this definition, not all temporary uses.
So like a typical, if I just go to the store and buy a pop-up tent, those are 10 by 10, right? Anybody know?
Yes.
Roughly, yeah,
It
10 by
could be,
10, 12 by 12.
Exactly.
But basically like 3 of those.
Yeah.
Just trying to visualize 300 square feet. Maybe about 3 of those.
What would the place across the street be, 300 square feet?
Well, so that's kind of where Andrew and I were basing it off of. We thought that, across the street would be big, is actually bigger than that, and so we thought, that was a lot larger than we expected, as we had not seen a site plan prior to that going up. So we just kind of made a ballpark guess that 300 square feet would be more reasonable, but without, just from looking at other municipalities, really.
So if we make a change to this, does that have to go back through planning and zoning?
No.
I would wanna, I don't believe so, no.
It wouldn't have to, I mean, you could do it, but it wouldn't, would not be required.
Yeah, I don't believe so. I think after it gets through planning board with no conditions, but I'll verify with Andrew on that process.
Well, it's the same principle, if they make a recommendation to us and we change something in a rezoning,
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
want to send it back through P and Z.
So, I mean, I agree with, I appreciate Councilman Oxer bringing that up, because it's 300 square feet is 15 by 15, and that's rather small.
That is small, yes.
For a produce stand.
Sure.
I think that maybe as a site plan review would have to be there, that we should probably address maybe a percentage of the lot size proposed, because 300 square feet on a 1 acre lot isn't much, right? That's a lot of parking for a very small structure. I think that, is that kind of in line with what you're looking at, Jerry?
Yeah, I was just thinking, it seems, I'm like, at first I didn't think anything of it, and then I'm like, well, how big is, that's when I was like, wait, just 3 of those? That's small for a farmer's market, let alone a
Yeah.
produce stand.
So if you double that, I think he's 600 square feet. You think
What
he-
here?
yeah.
I have no concept.
No.
That's why it took me so long to get to 300.
So,
What do you think?
I mean, I think 600 square feet would be a good starting number, but it would be, you'd have to look at percentage of the size of property or frontage or area compared to, it's the site plan, right? Like, and it would have to consider,
So on the site plan, are you looking at the total parcel when you get a site plan, or are you just looking at where they're placing it on the parcel?
It's usually, it shows the entire parcel because we're looking at the setbacks from the
Yeah.
the
Okay.
property line as
Correct.
well.
I mean, you factor in parking and all of that stuff too?
Correct, yes, and that was a tidbit that Andrew added, that,
Yeah.
we want to make sure that they abide by off-street parking per section 5.3.
So then they're kind of most of the way there.
Yeah.
So
And-
you're
Okay,
saying
yeah,
no
so-
more than what percent of the parcel?
I'd leave that to the experts.
Yeah, but it's gonna end up.
Subject to site plan approval?
yeah,
That's
I
what
would
the
say
others say.
subject to site plan approval, because,
Okay.
I mean, if we're looking at, by code standards, you can't just go to the store and buy a pop-up tent and say, here, go ahead, it has to be something industrialized like next door, right? So he's got the right kind of tent that we're looking for. As it's not something that's gonna just blow away at a windstorm, that's gonna withstand a pretty substantial storm, and that's kind of what we're looking for. We're not looking for blowovers or something that Joe Schmo can go buy at the Sam's Club down the street and say, now I've got a produce stand, because that's not efficient, right? We're looking for something larger and more structurally intact, not something that just falls down.
Sure.
And a 15 by 15 for an event-sized tent is, I mean, I don't see many of those personally.
Yeah.
That are of any kind of structural capability.
So your recommendation, and Mr. Oxford, is strike the size limit and replace that with, the stand must comply with all setbacks and site plan approval?
Yeah, it's already in there. Site plan review requirements as necessary. Seasonal daily removal and site plan review requirements as necessary.
So just strike out the, size limit.
We could say just size subject to site plan approval.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's
That's
probably-
helpful.
because I mean, like,
Makes it,
But what's gonna be the criteria for that? You know,
so,
if you're putting it on a big lot, you know, are we going up, you know, we don't want too small, but we don't want it gargantuan. So I'm just saying, you know, let's find somewhere in the middle, so if you say site, because again, Andrew and Alexa may approve something that's, looks one way, someone else comes in with a different idea down here, well, you did it for this, why the situations are different. We have to have some sort of exacting standards, so everyone's treated correctly. Whether it's 600.
1,000 square feet?
what are
Or
our
a percentage
requirements?
of the lot size or something, you know, again, we'll say again, I'm opening up, if it's a large lot, then you could have one heck of a mess of.
I think what I'm
Cover.
asking for, if we'll get to it, what are the parking space requirements per square footage of retail space per our UDO?
Okay, yeah, I can,
And I think that would be per the site plan
Yeah.
approval, right? Like, we couldn't take 100 or 1,000 square foot lot, put up a 600 square foot tent, and say, well, we got 400 square foot for parking, can you approve it? Right, there's a certain number of spaces required per square footage of retail space, am I correct?
correct, per district as well.
Yeah, so I think that it would have to fall in line with that, and that would be the site plan approval for our zoning department, is that correct?
Correct.
You know, I would, based on what we're saying here, that, you know, we get this reworded and brought back to us, so we can look and see, you know, exactly to where we have exacting standards, so that no one looking at that can be, well, you know, you did it for him, why not for me, it's the same
Correct.
thing, you know.
Correct.
This is it.
well, that's why I think doing the percentage is a little bit safer on our end.
Again, like I said.
I just think, we're focused on Main Street, what if one of these farms, I know it's not even in town, it's just the closest place I know,
Mhm.
down on Mambo.
Mhm.
We say, okay, we're a farm, we wanna open up a produce stand. We're gonna tell them they can put up 600 square feet on their 800-acre farm, that's all they're allowed to sell, is just in this little tent. You know, how foolish will we look on that end? You know, this is the complete opposite end of what we've been talking about the whole time.
Because all of this talk makes me think about, have you ever seen the documentary Clarkson Farm?
I don't know.
We're right in line with that, so I think that we need to be careful with our verbiage here, and that if the site plan is approved and they have parking spaces per retail square footage, that if it's within the bounds of our development or UDO, that we shall approve it. So if they have 8 acres and they wanna put up a 5,000 square foot tent, well, by all means, do whatever you'd like.
I think what could be safe is I can send out exactly what our parking standards currently state, so you guys can take a look at that and see if that's the correct metric that you're interested in.
And it per parcel, not per adjoining parcel, or my neighbor's gonna let me have 40 spaces over there, so I can put my big tent over here, it's gotta be.
Per lot size,
Yes,
as
per,
recorded.
yes.
And I understand where Jerry's coming from, and I agree, downtown versus the Mambo Road, yeah, these have
Yeah.
different
I know
circumstances.
it's extreme, but I mean, that's
Yeah.
what's gonna fall in our lap, is
But,
the extreme.
you know, you're right, and I'm just, again, I was trying not to get us to where we have something that's, you know, again, it's too small, too big, and so
Yeah.
forth. But if we can get something to where we at least, if Lexington, Andrew can come back with something, similar to what we are talking about here, as long as it, parking, you know, lot size, parking requirements, and reasonable flow in and out, and setbacks, then if they wanna put up something that's 5,000 square feet on an 800-acre farm, so be it.
But I think that addresses what kind of one of the main concerns on the council was of these things popping up. Well, let's say, no, if you've gotta have adequate parking, and you actually have to have a functioning space in your business, then you can't just pop up anywhere.
Right.
Right, yeah, and so if somebody does have 800 acres, right, they're also not hamstrung, granted, they're still gonna have to provide all the parking.
Right.
You know, but if they're willing to put that investment into a stand, then so be it, but I think they're not gonna be able to skirt around. You gotta meet these, you gotta have, it's gotta be a functional space, it can't be a mess, and it can't just be crammed in here on the side of the street somewhere. You gotta factor in all of these things, I think that kind of, those are probably the guardrails, best
that the section 5.3 of the UDO that references here?
Correct.
So that's the parking per square footage for
That's-
business, retail space?
Well, more specifically, that's off-street parking, but the related section that you're talking about is near that, and I can send that excerpt to you guys tomorrow.
I would strike the 300 square feet then, and then pursuant to our parking regulations referencing that section.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I can send that over.
So can you rework that language,
Mm-hmm.
striking that 300 with that reference?
Yes.
And include the reference information,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
we all can see that.
Now, are these parking guidelines, are these for like general brick and mortar buildings, or are these more for other like special uses?
The parking guidelines that I'm referencing, they break down, it's broken down into general buildings, but it also has a section for commercial, so I'll review both and see what tables are.
Because I don't wanna mess up and hold them into the same, parking standards as we do Food Line.
Mm-hmm.
We have line spaces and proper drainage, I don't wanna get carried away.
You trying to single out Food Line here?
That was just the biggest piece of concrete I could think of in town.
Well, Ms. May, let me ask you, Alexa, having heard what's being proposed here, reword it, and is something we take up next month's meeting, or try and get it on for Thursday night's agenda?
I think we could still look at Thursday night.
I mean, is there a push that we couldn't put it next month so we can properly discuss it one more time at the next agenda briefing?
You guys good with that?
I'm good pushing it, yeah, next month.
Sure, that way we could have Andrew's eyes on it, as well.
Yep.
Right,
Yep, give us sufficient time to review the ordinances.
Sure, absolutely.
Don't bail Alexa out.
Do you wanna leave it on the agenda and continue it? Because that public hearing has been advertised.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I don't wanna re-advertise it.
Right, right.
Okay.
Anything else?
That means I need somebody
Oh, you need a motion
whenever we do that.
on Thursday?
Correct.
Okay.
And you're the man for it.
Are we gonna open public hearing at all
Uh,
on Thursday?
We have one that's already open.
You have to open it, don't you?
This doesn't require, I think, yeah, it does.
And I only ask that because I have had expression from members of the community that they are going to come on Thursday to speak on behalf of this change. And I would hate for them to take time off and show up, and then we've decided today that we're not gonna hear it. So can we, a motion to leave open, like, what am I looking at on Thursday?
Again, I think historically what we've done is we open the public hearing
Okay,
and we continue that public hearing until the next meeting.
okay, all right.
That still requires them to come. We can decide whether or not we wanna hear them. But the problem with that is we might not have the actual language
Right.
we're gonna use. So again, historically, we've just opened the public hearing and then motion to continue it until the next meeting,
Okay, and they can still speak at public comment at the end of the meeting.
at the end of the meeting.
So, Ms. Mayor, you will, again, just
Might be
to
pretty late.
clarify, you will open the public hearing, and then whoever,
Yeah.
will make that motion, so.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
All
That's
right,
for another day.
yeah, next item.
Okay, 9B, it's consider selection of an engineering firm for the following projects: water capacity improvement Phase 1 and Phase 2, water system rehabilitation Phase 1, and Murdoch Road water main extension. These were projects that were funded, or are going to be funded with state legislature money. So we received two proposals, or excuse me, qualifications for engineering services. One of them being West Consultants, and the other being Goodwin and Mills Cowood, or however you say that. And that was included in your packet. So staff's recommendation is West Consultants, considering everything in mind as far as just knowledge of this town, as well as the financial aspect of it as well. So that would be staff's recommendation there. And that wraps up the agenda for Thursday.
Any other questions on the agenda? Thursday?
I just want to add that I did confirm with Andrew that the correct is non-contiguous for Goodman Road, the annexation.
I'm sorry, what was it?
I just clarified with Andrew, and Goodman Road will be a non-contiguous annexation.
Non-contiguous, okay.
Yes, just to be clear.
So did that question arise because in 3 it says fixing date of public hearing on question of contiguous annexation?
I just happened to notice, looking at the entire, that one had contiguous and the other had non-contiguous. I just, made notes to myself that the application read contiguous, and printed material, non-contiguous, and I just want to clarify that, in my mind, if nothing else.
Okay.
How was the work done? Was it contiguous or non-contiguous?
I believe none. I thought I remembered it as contiguous, but Andrew just corrected me, so.
Just, obviously, if we, propose that and it's passed, we want to make sure all wording is, exact.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're good.
We're missing a period.
All right, next item on tonight's agenda is a closed session to discuss 2 items. One is acquisition of property pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318.11A5, and to discuss a personnel matter 143, 318.11A6. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
Make that motion.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes